This chapter was all about what do leaders do during change management. And the first little part of it was a little difficult question, maybe describe, explain, or outline, depending on the keyword. It's going to be the same thing. The importance of management and leadership during the change management process. And there's no official sort of list or anything to learn here from VCAR. It's just more about, well, what are some things that leaders and managers should do during change? And that's why, and if they do those things, that's why it's important. So some of the things we could say are, effective change for a business will not happen unless management shows effective leadership, because managers must do the following. So they must diagnose the problem situation. So when we did our force field theory, they must create a vision for the future after what the business looks like after change has been implemented. They've actually got to come up with the strategies for change. They've got to communicate and market that change effectively so people get on board. They've got to motivate and inspire their stakeholders, so for example their workers and the shareholders, by creating driving forces for change and removing or reducing any restraining forces. And lastly, they've got to resolve the conflicts that occur whilst change is being implemented. So we don't need to know all of those or recite all of those on a response, but we just do have some things to talk about now if we ever get this question. Describe the importance of management during the change management process. Managers are important because they do these things here. The next little part of the chapter was about explain and discuss reactive and proactive approaches to change. So basically we said change can either be done one of two ways. We've got reactive. We implement change after factors in the environment have caused problems to our performance. The business continues its current practices until problems occur. And just to link our topics back to an earlier topic, we know problems have occurred because our KPIs are bad. That's versus proactive change. We implement change before factors in the environment have caused problems to performance. We try and anticipate the future and identify present opportunities or threats and respond now before they do become issues. And then both of these approaches had advantages and disadvantages. So if you are reactive, that sounds bad, but in one sense it is good because you're aware of what strategies have and haven't worked in the past, and you have that data or the KPIs on what to do. They guide you on what to do. The disadvantages are, obviously we miss the chance to capitalize on emerging trends if all we're doing is responding to the past, and competitors can gain an advantage by getting a first mover advantage, as in they responded first, they reap the rewards, and then we try and catch up. And then for the proactive approach, we just basically swap. So what the disadvantages were here, they become the advantages here, and for reactive, what the advantages are here, they become the disadvantages here. And then our final topic was describe and discuss or evaluate the strategies for overcoming employee resistance to change. And we said there's low risk. That's where we include employees in our sort of change and try and help them to overcome their resistance with communication, empowerment, support, and incentives. And then there's high risk strategies where we overcome resistance by using force, and we have manipulation and threats. And then all we needed to do was just go through each one. So communication, management uses two-way communication to tell employees about the change, the reasons, what the impact will be, and so on. We use empowerment by actually sharing the responsibility and decision-making about the change with employees, and that'll make them more committed to the change. We provide support for them whilst they're changing, counselling, mentoring, etc. And we could use incentives, give them bonuses, raises, promotions, and so on, if they implement the change successfully. And then there's good things about that. In the long term, employee morale is higher, it builds trust, and employees are encouraged to offer ideas, and therefore it meets their higher order needs. Disadvantages would be things like change is now slower because we're getting everyone's feedback. And there's high cost, particularly if we use incentives and support services, they cost money. And the change implemented can be inconsistent because we're getting multiple opinions and ideas, and that can lead to conflict. Then we had our two high-risk strategies: manipulate, so exert pressure and influence by maybe using persuasion, only selling positives, and so on. And then we had threats. If you do not change, you will be demoted, you'll have a pay reduction, loss of job, maybe unpaid overtime. And again, they had advantages and disadvantages. In the short term, change is faster to implement when you manipulate and threaten. We get consistent change because it's just the manager's opinion, and it's effective for dealing with a crisis when urgent action is required. The disadvantages are there's lower morale because people don't feel like they're trusted, so therefore the trust is decreased, and it can actually lead to further resistance later on. later on, once you've tried this once, it's hard to try it again. There's also the potential for staff absenteeism and turnover. Whoops, just to go back a step. Just to link our topic back to workplace relations, and that's because you're not trusting people, you're sort of threatening them.